Bruh, look, I'm in the back rooms. Alright, as you can tell, I'm going to be talking about one of the world's most elaborate schemers, one of my favorite villains of all time, and one of the greatest villains possibly in anime history, Aizen. Sosuke. At a surface value, I think anyone can appreciate Aizen. You can see in the series, not just how he behaves and how he talks, but even in his abilities, Aizen is a manipulator. And what makes him so dangerous isn't that he's just a manipulator, he is also incredibly powerful just on his own. Even from his design, this part wasn't intentional, but because of Bleach's art style transitioning from the older style to this newer style, you can definitely see characters' personalities much clearer just visually. Anyone who was vicious or a villain type would have sharp, angular faces that actually fit very well with Aizen, who was portraying this nice guy aesthetic. Kubo made his face look rounder, so you kind of end up falling for it. But once he betrays Soul Society, he does two things that changes his entire appearance. Well, three if you count the art style. He slicks his hair back and then takes off his glasses. Apparently, the glasses he was wearing was fake, which is fucking crazy, but in character for Aizen. When he wears the hair down, I don't know what it is, it's just compared to when he has his hair slicked back, it just makes him look more villainous. That and his new white outfit to contrast the Soul Reaper's black. Bleach's art likes to use the white and black as like a very strong contrast. Ichigo and Zangetsu, Soul Reapers, and the Espada. So it's a very big thing having the contrast of the black and the white in Bleach. That's like a very big artistic theme. In terms of backstory pertaining to Aizen, Aizen is very interesting because we know very little about him. He has little to no backstory at all. My first time seeing that was so strange because so many anime fans latch onto their backstory. And I think that's the wrong thing to look at, because what you should be really looking at is their motivation. The motivation is outlined in the backstory. But I think people confuse the two and then see that the backstory is the only way to write motivation to them. That's not the case. A character can have a backstory and still be shit, and a character can also not have a backstory and be amazing. Aizen is a perfect example of that because he tells you outright in the present what his motivation is. When you look at Aizen's character, Aizen is extremely arrogant. I'd probably say on the level of a god complex almost, because Aizen is not only powerful, but he is also insanely smart and he knows how to manipulate people. Those three combinations are what makes him extremely dangerous. And it also plays in part to his Zanpakuto Kyoka Suigetsu, which is complete hypnosis, which is kind of ironic because Aizen himself hates being controlled. Aizen is a person that would much rather like to be in control of things than be controlled, which is why he probably despises the idea of the Soul King as someone that is just so stagnant in the Bleach world, does virtually nothing throughout the whole series. And Aizen sees the way how the world is and despises it because he knows that something can be done but nothing is happening, which is why he even takes up this task of usurping the Soul King's position. And that is his true goal and his actual reasoning for why he does that. Because Aizen is insanely powerful, not even needing to use Bankai to deal with a majority of the Bleach verse, it means that Aizen's ego would climb to insane amounts. You can see when it comes to almost every fight that he's in, he's extremely relaxed, damn near unfazed, because he knows that no one could ever possibly reach up to his power. And that ultimately ended up being a huge mistake when Kisuke was able to land his Kido on him in Fate Karakura. I think Aizen's curiosity is a thing that gets overlooked when it comes to his character. When things deviate from his intended plan, he'll just keep going and try to find a way where he's still in control. And again, that arrogance comes back into play because he's so powerful. He knows that he can always find a situation to be on top. So when it got to the point of someone like Ichigo, someone who has the genes that he has, he basically treats him as some sort of lab rat. And throughout the entirety of Bleach, up until the end of the Arankar saga, he has literally been testing Ichigo and beefing him up to match him in combat. And because he let that go too far, Ichigo's Mugetsu would be enough to actually weaken him to a point where Kisuke's other Hado technique would work on him and was able to seal him. And I think it's those two things that I really like about Aizen, because despite him being extremely powerful, almost to an unstoppable degree, there are still ways to beat him. I think overall, Aizen as a villain is just insane because of his extreme influence over Bleach. And knowing all these things in hindsight kind of makes you appreciate Aizen a bit more. Ultimately, all these things about him, whether it be positive or negative, make Aizen one of my favorite characters in Bleach and one of my favorite villains in fiction.